Okay, thank you.
Minister Lametti, your own gender-based analysis for Bill C-39 is devastating. It shows that women will be disproportionately adversely affected by the expansion of assisted suicide to people with mental illness. It noted, quote, "It can be expected that made available in Canada for individuals whose sole underlying condition is mental illness, we would see an increase in women seeking MAID for psychiatric suffering and at younger ages," unquote. It also notes it, quote, "can be expected that controversial MAID deaths similar to those seen in Benelux countries, quote, would emerge in Canada under this option," close quote. The analysis notes that currently men are 3 times more likely to complete suicide, but with access to assisted suicide, a 100% lethal means of suicide, women may even those odds. Hardly the kind of gender parity we want. Minister Lametti, on International Women's Day, please tell us, with all of these dire warnings, why is your government putting Canadian women at risk by pushing ahead with this expansion of assisted suicide?
Monsieur le Ministre.
Thank you, Senator, for the question, and I appreciate the very good place from which it comes and the sincerity with which you're posing it. I think, as my colleague, Minister Duclos, has pointed out, the experience in the Benelux countries has been a very tiny percentage of people who seek MAID with a sole underlying criterion of mental disorder or mental illness. We expect that to be the case here. The guidelines that have been put into place or will be put into place that have been recommended by the expert committee are very strict. They will not allow for a large number of cases to be accepted. As for the difference between men and women, we're putting the stress on the autonomy of the individual here, where the criteria has been met, where the criteria can be met. So in the tiny number of cases, the fractional number of cases where someone meets that criteria, we are empowering the individual to choose to not suffer anymore if that's what they want. And we think that's an important part of it. But these are difficult situations, as you know.
Minister Lametti, as you've tried to sell the concept of psychiatric MAID to the Canadian public, you have occasionally implied that extending assisted suicide to people with mental illness has been mandated by the courts. Minister, as you know, that is not correct. You recently received a substantial letter on this matter from many notable Canadian law professors. As they stated, neither the Carter nor the Truchon cases ruled on the constitutionality of expansion for mental illness, and neither plaintiff requested MAID based on psychiatric grounds. Minister, if the courts have not required the expansion of assisted suicide to people with mental illness, and science cannot prove that mental illness is irremediable, why are you and your government so determined to forge ahead with it?
Senator, thank you for the question, Senator Bathurst. I know most of the people who signed that letter personally, having been a law professor for most of my adult life. In 2016, I felt that the original MAID package was unconstitutional because it didn't allow for a non-end-of-life possibility, access to MAID in a non-end-of-life scenario. And sadly, the Truchon case pointed out that I was correct. While neither case, Carter nor Truchon, you're right, studies the question of mental illness as the sole underlying criterion directly, I do feel that eventually we will get there, as happened in 2016. That certainly was the opinion of many senators in this honourable place 2 years ago, and was one of the reasons why this particular institution pointed us in that direction with old Bill C-7. So I'm pretty confident, Senator, that we're moving in the right direction in accordance with the principles underlying the Charter, and I think it's important that we empower Canadians who meet the criteria to have access to this possibility to end suffering.
Senator